John McMullen, I'm Jody McDonald. That makes us Mac and Mac here on Birds 365. Countdown on to the showdown with the 49ers coming to Lincoln Financial Field, the championship of the NFC at stake. Johnny Mac, I want to ask you about an individual Eagle player who I don't think we've mentioned in weeks here on the show. And it's just because his name hasn't come up. He hasn't done anything to merit it attention-wise with a great play or merited attention-wise because he screwed something up. But he's one of the 22 Eagles starters. And, oh, by the way, he almost never comes off the field.
Going Epsy on me?
Exactly where I'm going. We haven't mentioned Epps in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Again, hasn't made any major mistakes. Even the games that they lost, New Orleans, and that wasn't like Epps was a major contributor to those losses. The win last week against the Giants, he was out there, but he didn't do anything special, but he didn't screw anything up. Could Epsy be a key guy in whether the Eagles win or lose Sunday against the 49ers?
Yeah, I think it's more of, when we talk about the Eagles, and it goes back to another preseason thing. Remember when Miles Sanders said it's an all-star team or whatever, and, he got a lot of crap for that. Turns out he was right.
Yeah.
Turns out he was completely right. They have so many Pro Bowlers, all pros, Pro Bowl alternates all over the field. Marcus is just steady, He's not a great player, but he's steady. And as you mentioned, if you talk about who's on the field the most, he's literally on the field the most. I'll look it up real quick. 1,142 defensive snaps, first on the Eagles.
There you go.
And, he's not, the 49ers have an all-pro safety. He's not that type of player, but he's been steady. And when you don't, when it comes to defensive backs, it's great to have splash plays, but it's almost just as important to not be noticed. And you don't notice Marcus a lot, because he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. And especially in this defense, where I talk about it all the time, so many different teams play similar styles, and you see so many blown coverages. Now, you've seen blown coverages here. I'm not trying to say you don't, but compared to everybody else, it's the number is much less, and he's a big part of that. And he deserves a lot of credit. It is interesting, though, because and we'll have plenty of time to talk about this after the season. The Eagles got to make a lot of decisions on the defensive side of the ball. He's proven himself as a starter. He's going to be a free agent. How much is Reed Blankenship's ability to step in and play at a acceptable level? Obviously you want to find a way to get CJ Gardner-Johnson back. He's the playmaker, but he's going to cost a lot of money because guess what? He's the playmaker.
Playmakers get paid.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting, but he's been a very, very important part of this team. And, it's about not getting noticed for Marcus Epps.
Right. And the Eagles will, and Gannon runs the defenses that he runs, and I think he does a great job, but he's going up against Shanahan, who does an equally great job. I'm guessing they're going to try, and this is easier said than done, to try and get Kittle isolated on Marcus Epps. You would rather have Chauncey Gardner-Johnson playing him because he's more of a playmaker, might be able to come up with a pick. That's not Epps' strong suit. But Shanahan is great at getting guys into matchups. Eagles in zone most of the time, so you got to read the zone and make the right move. They have said that Kittle is the kind of guy who will just create on his own, doesn't always stick to the plays, and he's already got a very good working relationship with the quarterback of the Niners. Purdy seems to know what he's going to do when he's making it up as he goes along. I think they're going to try and get Kittle isolated on Epps a lot this game. Do you?
I think more because they get the ball out quickly. I'm more concerned with the linebackers when it comes to Kittle. and I'm more concerned with Kaiser White trying to carry him down the field in the seam before the safety can get there. Um, everybody knows the Eagles use a lot of quarters coverage, and everybody's got quarters beaters, so to speak. And if they're in quarters coverage, run this to beat it. I think that too often, and you see it with Fred Warner. Seattle plays a lot of quarters as well. San Francisco mainly cover three, but then they sort of toggle back and forth. And you see Fred Warner carrying tight ends down the field, sort of Derek Brooks style. And Derek Brooks is in the Hall of Fame for a reason. I don't like when people expect linebackers to carry players like George Kittle or Travis Kelce or Dallas Goedert, for that matter, all the way down the field, unless you have Fred Warner, and I don't think the Eagles have that player. And I'm the biggest TJ Edwards fan in the world, but they don't. But Warner's a little bit different. Um, so I'm sort of more concerned about that when it comes to George Kittle.
Right, but because they don't have Fred Warner, I think Gannon's going to know we're going to have to get the safety, tighten it up a little bit, and be able to pick up Kittle. And that's why I'm saying it's going to be one of the two safeties. I think the Eagles hope it's more often Gardner Johnson, but it could be Epsy. Epsy may be the guy who's going to have to either cover and pass defend against Kittle and or tackle Kittle immediately, because the 49ers are as good a yard after catch team as there is. And he's the kind of guy who makes those type of plays. Epsey's a good tackler, though. So I don't think we'll see an angry run winner by George Kittle just face masking Epsey away on a big play on Sunday, but we'll have to see. All right. But one thing I do want to see from the Eagles fans on Sunday is give them that home field advantage that we talked about extensively. That's why they went 14-3, to make sure this game was here. Brock Purdy, as big a fan as he's made of me with his play so far, has never faced this kind of crowd. The Eagles fans are going to be loud and proud and borderline obnoxious right from the get-go. If you're Kyle Shanahan, how do you try and shield Brock Purdy from that? Is it all in preparation prior to? Is it somebody to hold his hand, a phrase you used earlier in the show, which was a good one, during the game? How do you get Brock Purdy through what's going to be his toughest road assignment in his career?
That's a good question. Yeah, that's one of the reasons I'm leaning towards flip-flopping in this game. I don't know. I keep coming back to that, Jody. I keep coming back to that. How does he survive this atmosphere when I've seen veteran quarterbacks wilt in it? I'll tell you what, if he wins this game, I'm changing my tune. I'm going to be here on Monday morning, and I'm going to be a Brock Purdy fan. Because if he handles this, that is a big test. And look, he's going to do everything possible. We've already seen it. We've talked about getting the football out of his hands quickly. We've talked about the yards after catch. I don't think you're going to see a lot of throws outside the numbers. Occasionally, they use a lot of play action. So if they start running the football well, you're going to see the play action. Then they can take a few shots. So that's what he's going to try to do. He's going to try to get the running game going. Sort of old school football that so many Philadelphia fans like. Get the running game going, get effective, stay ahead of the chains. The worst thing that could happen for the 49ers, and this is a big part of the environment as well, because if you start getting false starts, if you start getting negative plays in your 3rd and 13,
Yep.
Look out. So I would say number one, stay on schedule, no negative plays. Don't put them in situations where, I've talked about Darius Slay and James Bradbury baiting him. Don't put him in those types of situations.
See, I don't think that's a big part of the game because I think he's too wet behind the ears to be baited. Who you bait are the guys who have been around forever and think they can read every step of the field and think they can pull something off. Oh, I think Purdy's just going to stick to the plays. I don't think he's going to try and outdo a D-back from the Philadelphia Eagles. You're right about him throwing the ball over the middle of the field. That's what impressed me about his game against the Cowboys. He just laser-like throws the ball down the field in between the middle of the field. He's got them hanging. He's got nerve. Now, he may pay a price because, a D lineman gets his hands up, get that ball tipped, and the Eagles could be off to the races. But Purdy is not afraid to throw it down the field. I think it's nervy to throw it between the hashes the way he does. Oh, I don't think he's going to get baited into anything because I don't think he's going to throw outside the hashes much in this game.
Yeah, well, either do I. I mean, they generally don't do that, but as I said, unless it's play action, unless the receiver's wide open, like when he throws it outside the numbers, he's got to see the wide receiver open. Whereas opposed to some quarterbacks will so-called throw a receiver
Correct.
open. But that's where that baiting comes in. It's not necessarily if Bradbury and Slay are smart enough to know where they can get to, where they can travel to, and sort of, you're trying to feign that the receiver is open, and they do it better than any group, any tandem, I should say, in this league. And we're going to see. I mean, I talked about, I watched, I didn't get to see a lot of Brock Purdy when he came in during the regular season, but I've seen every play of the playoffs. And both first halves were shaky. So I think it's important for the Eagles to take advantage of the opportunities they do get defensively. No dropped interceptions. If he throws it to you, catch it. No dropped interceptions if he gives you that opportunity, because I think he's shown in both that he starts to gain confidence. All right, nothing bad has happened. The other shoe hasn't dropped. And he played pretty darn well down the stretch of that Cowboys game after the Cowboys didn't take advantage of the opportunities they had. And then all of a sudden he's throwing the football over the field. Kittle makes a great catch. And all of a sudden he starts getting a little mojo, whatever you want to call it. I think it's important for the Eagles to take advantage of opportunities when they're there defensively.
And the guy who kind of gave him a big helping hand in the second half was Elijah Mitchell, because McCaffrey wasn't 100%. He had the calf thing. It popped up on him during the game. He did not have his best game last week, and we can only speculate as how much he was handicapped because of the injury that he was playing with. But Elijah Mitchell came in and ran the ball pretty damn effectively. And I think it will be a two-headed monster. Certainly if McCaffrey's 100%, he's going to be the lead dog. But they're not afraid to use Elijah Mitchell, and I think the 49ers are going to want to come in here and run the ball as much as possible, because I would if I were them. You want to keep Jalen Hurts off the field. The 49ers, agree or disagree with this, the 49ers need to play in front more than the Eagles need to play in front.
Oh, God, yes. Yeah, I mean, yeah, if look, I mean, San Francisco is so good defensively. You don't want to get behind them either, but the Eagles are much more capable of coming back from, say, a double-digit deficit than San Francisco would be. Other than 10-0 early in the game, because as I said, Kyle's going to be very disciplined. He's not going to give up on the running game. But if the Eagles are up 10 in the second half, book the flights, man. It's over. If the 49ers are up 10, it's not good, but all hope isn't lost for the Eagles, because, I mean, the bottom line, I keep it, the Eagles are significant. These teams are so well matched everywhere but quarterback, and they're not playing each other. So I hate to boil it down. I hate it more than anything else because I hate when people boil things down. Oh, they have the better quarterback. They're going to win. There are a lot of ways to win a football game. But I always talk about margin of errors. I say it all the time. The Eagles have a much greater margin of error in this game because they have a significant advantage at quarterback.
True. But the 49ers will tell you that both of their playoff games so far, the argument could be made that the opposition started with the better quarterback in Geno Smith, who had the comeback player of the year type season, and or Dak Prescott, who's got much more experience.
And they're right. And that's the point. There are other ways to win football games, and the 49ers prove it almost every week.
Well,
every week.
We will see if they do it this week against the Eagles. All right, McMullen and McDonald, a.k.a. Mac and Mac, hanging around for another 40-some-odd minutes. Going to have a good guest join us next. Clark Judge, been a guest here before. I'm Birds 365, longtime NFL writer, doing so these days for Talk of Fame. Both podcast host and writer for Talk of Fame is going to jump in with us next here on Birds 365.